President Trump made a brilliant political move and good for the country to go to the middle. Wall plus DACA plus TPS. I've had more Democratic senators talk to me in the last 2 days than talk to me in the last 30 days. The harder Nancy Pelosi goes left and the more Trump goes to the middle, we're going to get this thing solved.
Lindsey Graham, as the Senate gets ready to vote today on two rival bills to reopen the government. Majority Leader Mitch McConnell calling the Republican bill a fair compromise. Democrats refusing to yield, demanding an immediate end to the shutdown with nothing for the border wall. North Dakota Senator Kevin Cramer is a Republican on the Budget Committee. He joins us now.
How you doing, sir? Morning.
I'm great, thank you. It's good to be at work.
Give us something.
Give us something. What happens here?
What happens? Well, I think what happens is we'll have our dueling amendments today. The two bills, the one that's brought by the Republicans and the one that's brought by the Democrats, and that in and of itself, you guys, I think is worthy of notice, because for a long time there has not been this type of a discussion, debate, negotiation, if you will. Even if it's two sides in the United States Senate, at least people are talking again. And I agree with what Senator Graham said.
Sandra and I, what we hear from the folks we're interviewing is just it's like a level of frustration that you don't normally come across. And we hear it from everybody, but now we're getting word from some of our producers that Joe Manchin may vote yes on both measures today. What does that tell you, and did you know about that?
Well, I didn't, but I'm not surprised. I think there could be others, of course, that will vote yes on both measures. Both measures do something that a lot of us want to do, and that's reopen the government. That said, what I hope happens is, I doubt either one of them will get the 60 votes to pass, but at least we have competing issues now. We have competing proposals that can be debated. For the last month, this debate was between the Speaker of the House and the President of the United States.
All right, so Senator Joe Manchin says he's leaning pretty hard to voting for both bills. He says he's willing to do whatever it takes to reopen the government, and he's leaning pretty hard towards voting for both. Just wanted to get that in there because we just heard that.
Yeah, that's the first I've heard of it as well. I wouldn't be surprised if some other Democrats thought the same way. I mean, we have two Democrats from Maryland, two from Virginia, the largest population of federal workers in the country. They shouldn't be voting against reopening the government, and that includes the Republican proposal, which is, by the way, the one of the two that could actually get signed into law, and that should not be forgotten. These votes are not simply symbolic. There's one of these bills that the president would actually sign and would end this shutdown.
One more question on this, and we've had a lot of people trying to get into the mentality of Nancy Pelosi and why she's taken the position she has. Sure. Republicans believe that she's like hanging on just by a thread right here to her position as Speaker of the House. Josh Holmes used to work for Mitch McConnell. He was here last hour. I don't know if you remember him, but this is his characterization as to why she won't do a deal.
I think it's the driving factor here, Bill. I think it's the reason why she can't make a deal. She's not incapable of doing it, but she might be incapable politically of doing it. Surely they have a legislative agenda that they'd like to trade in exchange for a wall, and yet here we are 4 weeks in, and they got nothing.
So just a quick comment on that. Do you agree with that? Is that the buzz on Capitol Hill?
Well, let's remember that becoming the Speaker was no easy matter for her, because she had to satisfy this very radical left freshman wing of her caucus. That wing hasn't gone away. We're very familiar with it in the Republican conference. I was in the House for 6 years, where 20, 30 members can make sure you aren't a majority and that you aren't the Speaker. I believed all along that much of what Senate Democrats are doing is protecting her speakership, and that when we can get to a more, where she's got a more secure footing on that we can move forward. But we can't. She's running out of time, and I think they are running out of patience.
Meanwhile, Senator, you've been having some pretty strong thoughts on what we saw happen in Washington, D.C. several days ago at this point now, but the country's had a chance to digest and watch that confrontation that we're looking at now. Those Covington kids had to have school canceled, many of them talking about the threats that they have received. Here's Rob Sanders, a prosecutor, on the threats to those kids and legal action. Watch.
The most common one, I think, that might apply in this situation is terroristic threatening second degree. That's any time that someone threatens death or violence against a educational institution in Kentucky, or any student in the educational institution in connection with the school function.
So this is, and they're investigating this, but What were your thoughts on all of that?
Well, my thoughts on all of it is that it's a tragedy when that we're even at this point, and that what once used to be called mainstream media, I don't think that's even fair anymore, rushed to judgment because they wanted to believe it. It's like a kid that believes in Santa Claus 2 or 3 years after they're old enough to know better. They believe what they want to believe and they see what they want to see. The problem I've had since then, and by the way, I hope there's a bank of lawyers that sue everybody, including a bunch of mainstream media for libel, and some movie stars, by the way. It's time that we take action against this. But what bothers me the most is I was watching your show yesterday, as you probably know. I tweeted about it. And now what we're seeing is even some of the media that backed off of their original story, quasi-apologize, are now starting to, reevaluate the incident itself and equate some blame or some moral equivalency and say, well, but if the kids hadn't been wearing MAGA hats, yeah, but however, the chaperone maybe should have gotten them someplace else. And I want to be clear, these students did nothing wrong. Zero. There's no however, there's no but. They were not the guilty party here. They weren't doing the harassing. They weren't the ones that were invading other people's space. They were there doing peaceful, protected expression of speech, by the way, for life. And I just get very concerned when our media even subtly implies that somehow the students were in the wrong for being there. It's like, being blamed for your own murder because you were in the bank when the bank robber pulled a gun out. It's not right, and I think our media needs to reflect.
Should be more of a focus on these Hebrew Israelites. They're grown men, and they're bigots, and they don't like white people, and they don't like gays, and they don't like African Americans who assimilate with white people. And they've escaped focus throughout this entire ordeal, sir.
Entirely. I watched all hour and 46 minutes. I mean, the vile that those people spew, they don't even deserve to have the Capitol Mall, as far as I'm concerned.
Senator Kramer, thank you for coming on America's Newsroom this morning.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
On that same note, we're learning a bit more, too, about the Native American at the center of the controversy. He was on NBC a bit earlier today.
I was trying to walk away. There was a spot, there was a place where I could take my peoples because we were surrounded. We couldn't go right, we couldn't go left, back.
Is that what the video shows? Phillips is now clarifying multiple reports about being a Vietnam veteran, so we'll get a live report on what he's saying about that today. Coming up, Sandra.
And the saga continues on Capitol Hill. Still no deal on the holding a news conference. We're waiting on that. It should be happening about 30 minutes from now. We'll bring that to you live.
What I've always said is I've never stepped foot in South Vietnam. And that's, I don't know how much clearer can that be?
Native American elder Nathan Phillips clarifying earlier today on the NBC Today show. It had been reported he was in Vietnam. Many online were quick to attack Nick Salmon and other Covington Catholic high school students after a video of their encounter with Phillips at the Lincoln Memorial went viral. Griff Jenkins live in Washington with the fallout from today. Griff, on it goes. Good morning.
Yeah, hey, Bill, good morning. It's still going viral. People are still talking about it, and it's still unclear exactly what happened in the now famous face-off video. First, a Covington High School kid, Salmon, got his say on NBC's Today Show. Well, this morning, it was Phillips's turn.
Even though I'm angry, I still have that forgiveness in my heart for those students. And that forgiveness even goes to those chaperones and those teachers who should have just said, you students, this isn't the place.
Now we are learning more about Phillips's service record. Phillips, who went by the name Nathaniel R. Stenard, served in the U.S. Marine Corps Reserves from May of 1972 to May of 1976, reaching the rank of Private E1. Military occupational specialties included refrigerator technician and anti-tank missileman. But contrary to those reports you mentioned, the Marine Corps says he had no deployments and never served in Vietnam. Fox News also has confirmed details about an incident involving Phillips after the Lincoln Steps stare down on Saturday. Phillips led dozens in an attempt to enter and disrupt the Catholic Mass services at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. You see there on your screen a spokeswoman releasing this statement to Fox News. On January 19th, 2019, during a special mass at 7 p.m., a time when the basilica is normally closed, a group of approximately 50 individuals attempted to gain entrance to the basilica while chanting and hitting drums. The individuals were asked to leave the property after it was determined they did not intend to share in the celebration of the mass. Now, no word yet on whether Salmon and Phillips have spoken to each other or even have plans to do so, but this national debate seems to be continuing. Guys?
Thank you, Griff. Griff Jenkins in D.C., 33 past the hour.
Nancy Pelosi's become a nightmare for the Democratic Party. She seems unreasonable. She seems to have a dislike for the president that is hurting the country. And this idea of not letting the president speak is really overplaying your hand.
Fox News alert on all of this. The standoff between House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and President Trump. The president giving in. The State of the Union address will now be delayed. Our A-team is here. Kayleigh McEnany, RNC spokeswoman, and Marie Harf, former State Department spokeswoman, Fox News analyst and host of Benson and Harf. Tom Bevan, co-founder and publisher of Real Clear Politics. I don't know if it's fair to say that the president gave in, but I mean, he wasn't invited. He was invited, then he was uninvited, and this is just getting ugly, Kayleigh.
It is, and I don't think it's fair to say the president gave in. It is, after all, separation of powers. Nancy Pelosi has to pass that concurrent resolution, so the president is respecting that, and rightfully so. But it is getting ugly when you consider the fact that this is the first time in American history that a Speaker of the House has denied a sitting, duly elected president access to speak to the American people. That's right, and Mark Lippman made a very key point on this. He said, what a terrible precedent this sets. Even when Tip O'Neill and Ronald Reagan were at their worst, this didn't happen. Even when Nixon was enveloped in scandal, this didn't happen. Even when Bill Clinton was impeached, this didn't happen. What a terrible precedent. Shame on Nancy Pelosi.